welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Kathleen Walter. With us today is Mideast expert and Florida Atlantic University political science professor, Dr. Rabil. His newest book is Religion, National Identity, and Confessional Politics in Lebanon. And Dr. Rabil, it's good to have you back. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me again. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Well, after the military-led crackdown in Egypt that killed more than 800 people, many are wondering what's next for Egypt. Some are concerned that Egypt could go the way of Syria and descend into civil war. What are the scenarios that you're looking at right now for Egypt's future?
Well, I look at, broadly speaking, three scenarios. The worst, let me start with the worst. The worst is that the army will do something similar to what Hafiz Assad did in 1982. They will go to say, listen, it's an existential battle. We have to go ahead and clamp down on the Muslim Brotherhood. So just to suppress them once and for all. This is a scenario, I hope it doesn't happen, but it is in the card. The second scenario, mainly, the Muslim Brotherhood will go underground. They will feel that, well, we cannot defeat the army. Let's go underground and act like before, but more smartly than before. The third scenario, mainly, it's going to be about, okay, we can't win, they cannot win. Let's go ahead and have some kind of a deal. And this is what I really would like to see, some kind of a compromise between the two parties. Really, Egypt is too important. It's the most populous state. It's a strategic country for the United States. And I really believe and hope that some kind of a compromise will be worked out between the two parties.
And today we're learning that former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak could soon be released from prison. Does this suggest that the old guard is still in charge? And how do you see the people of Tahrir Square reacting to this?
Well, it's a very good question. As a matter of fact, the old guard have been in charge. And more than that, if you look at the appointment of the governors, if you look at how the government is operating, you feel that really the old guard is in charge and more. And I think that those people who took to the street, to Tahrir Square, they are not going to be happy. How they are going to be happy seeing that whatever they worked for, and Mubarak really, he is the symbol of the old regime. And also it's a symbol that for them, that they had dealt with, they removed that symbol. And for the army to go ahead now and say, well, listen, we are going to release Mubarak, I think this is a little bit, I have very strong mixed feeling about it. And this will lead most likely that whatever rapport, whatever agreement, whatever faith the people, mainly the secular progressives, they have in the army is going to be affected. And I don't like that.
Now, the National Review, which is a conservative publication, argues that the U.S. should stand behind the Egyptian military and other legitimate democratic forces in opposing the Muslim Brotherhood. Do you agree with that? And is the Egyptian military the only leverage that the U.S. has at this point?
Well, as a matter of fact, yes. This is where we have some leverage. The other leverage we have, and hopefully will work to having, with the other parties, mainly with the progressive and the secular and the historical parties of Egypt. Now, regarding your question, I have also mixed feeling about it. And this is where I think we are knocking on the wrong door. I think if we want to have a deal in Egypt, yes, we should speak with the military, we should support the military, but also we should tell the military, listen, you have to be very careful because we have to stand by our universal values. We can't have every other day news that people were killed, including in custody. And where I feel that we are knocking on the wrong doors, we are not knocking on the door of Saudi Arabia and the other Gulf countries. This is where the question is. The military or the army of Egypt is acting mainly with a full blessing of Saudi Arabia. And this is why they have somehow brushed aside all the concerns of the international community. And they are moving ahead, believing in an existential battle with the Muslim Brotherhood. And this is where the United States, it has to speak with Saudi Arabia. I am no fan of the Muslim Brotherhood. And I know what they did was terrible. But also, I don't like to see Egypt going the way of Syria. And there is a good chance that this will happen.
Now, a growing number of U.S. lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are saying that the United States should suspend or withdraw $1.5 billion in economic and military aid to Egypt. Is that a wise move?
Not now. I think we can speak about it with the Egyptians, but I won't take any action about it now. This is whatever leverage we have, this is the leverage we have. And as I mentioned to you, we are knocking on the wrong door. Mainly, even if we are going to say, listen, I'm going to suspend that aid, they are going to go ahead still with their policy to try to clamp down on the Muslim Brotherhood. And probably and most likely to ban it altogether, like Nasser did in 1954. And I think that this option should be kept. Now, the option of actionable diplomacy should take place. And I think that United States should lead an effort to have a regional gathering, a regional conference to deal with the problem, not only of Egypt, but also with Syria and what's happening in the region. And as I mentioned to you, it's extremely imperative that we speak with the Saudis to try to find a way within Egypt.
Dr. Rabil, last question for you. How do you view the Obama administration's response to the crisis in Egypt?
Well, I have mixed feelings about how the Obama administration handled the crisis from the beginning. Really, somehow, yes, Mubarak was out, but then they felt that they didn't know much about the Muslim Brotherhood. And I felt that we were so much rushing to embrace them and put them on a pedestal. This is at least my feeling. And I felt that really from the perspective of the Egyptian people that took Tahrir Square, they felt somehow a little bit abandoned by the Obama administration. And then things piled up. How things piled up? That the Muslim Brotherhood, coming from the political culture, the Islamist political culture, to control society, to shape society according to its own view, Islamist view. This is where also we should have taken more action in concert with the Europeans, in concert with our allies. What are you doing? You say you believe in democracy, then why you have a constitution that go ahead against the grains of democracy? So mainly, I feel that we have done good, they have done good and bad, and I have mixed feelings about it. Now, and most important thing now, because forget the past is not going to help us. You learn from the past, you learn lessons from the past. What's now, it's so important is that I really think that we have some leverage. Let's keep it. Let's work with our allies, especially the Saudi, and tell them, listen, we need a compromise in Egypt now. Democracy is not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to take a long time. And the army cannot go ahead and reconstitute the old order, because this is what brought us to here in the first place. So really for United States, we have to walk a very delicate line between supporting the army and telling them, listen, we are with you, but also we believe in the establishment of democratic institutions that we know it's going to take time, and you are the guardian. But you, in your responsibility as a guardian, you have to act as a proper guardian.
All right, Dr. Robert Rabil, as always, good to have you.
It's my pleasure, and thank you very much for having me, Kathleen. It's an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.